Welcome again to our art therapy segments. This is again about saying goodbye to 2020 and hello to 2021 and setting in place some intentions and processes. I believe this is maybe the fourth or fifth in the sequence. I am so thrilled to introduce you again today. Who's going to be kind of a feature today is Carlene. Carlene's been working with me for 10 months and she has almost finished her degree in psychology. She's been helping in all kinds of ways with all kinds of dimensions of my life. But one of the parts that I want to talk about today is she's been participating in our 2021 What the Fuck Joy art sessions on the web. So she's in that part, you're over there in your home doing your stuff, and today she's going to talk a little bit about what's happened for her so far. So my question to her to get her started is, talk to me a little bit about, we've had 2 sessions now,
Yep.
So let's say 4 hours altogether over a couple weeks we've been processing all this, and Carlene also helped organize the kits, and so you had sort of an inside scoop before some of the other people.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've been really investing in and processing and feeling and growing some parts of yourself. So she's got 3 articles over here: cultural artifacts, expressive multimodal objects.
Yeah.
So start wherever you wish and tell us a little bit about them. And you might have to hold them up close because some of the littler bits I'm not sure that can be picked up by the camera. So you may have to be kind of articulate to let our viewers know.
Okay, fair enough. I guess this is the first piece. It's supposed to represent 2020, and as a result, I picked shit brown. I liked the idea of yellow, and for me that represents happiness, but again, that the brown is supposed to represent all of the challenges that life has really like put in the way. Like clouds all of the good things, and it makes it really hard to move forward and move on, and like not ruminate on the bad. So on the front I've got more of the paper mache tissue paper, and again at the end of it the goal is that you won't be able to see it, and the whole point is that again it's really hard to see the good if you're not actively thinking about it, and trying to look for the good, because it's really easy to find bad.
So if I could just ask some questions around. So this is a representation for you or an exploration of 2020.
Yep.
And 2020 was C-19 and lockdown, and also working really hard at a lot of projects and adventures and trying to pay your bills and go to school full time and all these things while also under lockdown. So that's some of the things that 2020 also represents for you.
Yeah.
And also maybe some things in your personal life. And so that's what the brown represents, is some of the gungy parts, the troubled parts, the yuckier parts.
Yeah.
And I wanted to compliment you on using the tissue paper. That was something that I had not even mentioned to anyone, and it's part of the amazing delight of these kinds of workshops when we invite people to use anything they want to use and say, you know, here's a list that you might want to play with, here's a kit that's got some stuff in it. But when people go off on their own adventures, they almost always come back and they've done 1 or 2 or 50 things that I would never have even thought of. But I feel it is emboldening for everybody when there's kind of no wrong way to do these things, right?
Yeah.
That doing the drip part was very intriguing too. That kind of love what 2020 was like for many people.
Yeah.
And so the tissue paper too, of layering it and layering it. I'm very affectionate myself to the idea of layering, that much of life is like that, that you go through a day and you may have begun the day thinking and feeling certain things, but then the day kind of sticks to you, and then there's parts that you pull off and other things stick, and you go to bed and some parts still stick, good or bad, and then the next day you start with what you, right? So that I like the layering part. That's very, I think, a good way to communicate human truth.
And I use that same concept moving into the other one. So again, yellow, because I that's the biggest thing, is I like being happy. I like being a person that's not super serious. And this one I want you to see. So I chose to layer it a lot more, so it's a lot thicker. And for me, tissue paper also represents like gentleness, both with myself and with other people, because I have a tendency to be hard both on myself and on others. So just accepting that and trying to remain cognizant of that. I put little tissue paper on this side of grad caps. I don't know if you can see those. And that for me is going to represent graduation, which hopefully next year. But also just my career moving forward. So I talk about professionalism. So I made a little tie out of clay. And that for me is supposed to represent like embodying professionalism and working on becoming the kind of person that people want to work with and that has something to offer and something to bring to the table.
So by professionalism, just to make sure our viewers know, you also mean like competencies, confidence, a sense of purposefulness, meaningfulness. It's not just the money. I want to say that.
No, it's not just
money. No, it's the whole personhood of it.
Yeah.
Because psychology and caring for people and community is part of your dream for your career.
Yeah.
And it's it's bigger than just a paycheck. It's who you are. It's a person. Yeah.
I put a little tree charm here because I find it really hard not to focus just on my grades and, again, not assigning a value to those grades. And trying to view my classes, regardless of what my grade is or what the outcome is, as an opportunity to grow and expand what I do know. And maybe I won't have taken the course and gotten the grade that I wanted, or maybe I fail it, who knows. But I'll still have taken something from it. I have a little light bulb because this year I've had a few light bulb moments where things kind of clicked into place, and I hope that that's kind of moving forward where I start to be able to fit and integrate all my knowledge together well. On the other side, I have little paw prints, and a little cat and some balls of yarn, and a little, I don't know what you call it, embellishment, I guess, that says, "Be authentic, love." And for me, that's, I'm the most myself when I'm around animals, and I feel like that's quite common with people. But that being said, I have a cat this year, so that's, you know,
So
something that happened in 2020.
2020 had some yuck, but it also had you finished all these courses. You worked a lot of professional hours. You did a summertime internship sort of practicum with the Women's Center.
Yeah.
You've been doing this kind of work.
Yeah.
You have a home, a nice apartment that you share with some people you like. You have your car.
Yeah.
These are big things that you've accomplished and or that you've continued,
Yeah.
right? And there's a lot there to be proud of. And I like what you said about, or I'm satisfied to hear what you said about cats and nature and being authentic, being spontaneous, having integrity, being true to yourself. That's tough in this world, especially for young women, where the world wants you to be a certain way, or men want you to be a certain way.
Be small, be modest.
Yeah, or your family wants you to be a certain way. So making the choices day by day and hour by hour to be authentic to yourself, that's been, again, a journey in 2020, and it's something you want to continue into 2021. I love that. I think that all of the things you've said very much fit with what I've witnessed from you over the almost a year that I've known you. Yeah, so it fits. I mean, that's when it's yes, this fits. It's true, it fits.
And again, like, I've seen posts on Facebook, and honestly, it's true. Like, I just want to be the person that my cat thinks I am. So if I can embody that, then I'll be happy. I have a little butterfly here, and that's because butterflies typically signal change. And I have some sunflower stickies and some daisies that carry on over to my other piece. this is the top of that box that no longer closes. And it's a lot more chaotic, but that was kind of the point. Was that this one kind of represents all that 2020 was for me, but also moving forward, what I would like, what goals I have, what intentions I want to set. So first I have two little embellishments that say, hope is never lost and believe in yourself. I struggle a lot with depression and anxiety, and as a result, I tend to spiral very fast, and it's really easy to get hopeless. So I'm constantly looking for things to be hopeful about.
Making conscious choices to kind of keep practicing that. Like an athlete practices, they might go and do a marathon once a year, but they spend every other day of the year thinking about what would I eat if I want to succeed at the marathon? What is it a good idea for me to go every day jogging if I want to succeed at the marathon? It's not just that one day, it's every day. It's a practice. I love that you said that.
And then to believe in yourself, because again, I feel like a lot of people, like myself, we underestimate ourselves, and we undervalue ourselves. So I think that there's been a lot of things in this year that I've accomplished that I didn't think that I would be able to. And that being said, I should have those remain in my brain and remain like moving forward, I guess, that if I can do that, then I can do anything. I have a little charm at the bottom. Well, there's 3 of them, but this middle one here says embrace imperfection. And that's about, again, embracing imperfection, the idea that you don't need to be perfect, you just need to do what you can. Sometimes that looks like doing things really well to the best of your ability, and other times you just kind of have the motto that anything worth doing is worth doing half-ass. And that's the idea that you can...
Just to get through the day, like when you're someone like yourself, or many of us, where you're working, you got to make sure your car is working, you've got your paid work, you've got your classes, you've got relationships, you've got a cat box now that has to get changed every day.
Yep.
You know, there's some days you have to just say, well, these 3 things pulled me sideways, so this other thing is not going to be perfect today. Maybe some other day I'll get it perfect, but today is not that day.
Exactly.
Right?
And for assignments, that means, if you didn't do that assignment and you're, last minute writing it, it's better to have started it and written it last minute than to have just not done it at all because you were afraid that it was going to be not good enough.
Yeah.
I've got a little Buddha here, and that's just to remind myself that calm is something that you have to work at and embody. And that good things come with patience. I found this one had some embellishments on it, and it says the key to happiness. And I stuck on tenderness, healing, and happiness. And then I put a key here and a lock here to symbolize being honest and truthful to myself, and how I guess being authentic in the world and existing in the world as someone who is capable of believing in herself and having hope and who knows things and who knows that she knows things, that those are easy ways to be happy and to work towards that. I've got a few stickers. So this one says a new beginning, and that's how I want to view 2021. May your day be full of sunshine. Again, I chose the yellow because it's really happy, and sun, vitamin D, that makes you happy. But more than that, I want to be a person that's kind of like sunshine, There's people that when they walk into a room and they smile or they laugh, they make the whole room laugh with them. And those are usually the people that are the most in tune with themselves.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to embody. This one says creepy, kooky, freaky, spooky. And that's just about being who you are, regardless of how other people view that. Maybe you might be creepy or freaky to someone else, but you know, you might be someone else's cup of tea.
So kind of trusting the process.
Yeah.
Each day too. So waking up each day and saying, I'm going to try to have sunshine today. I'm going to try to be an authentic, earnest, good person. And I'm also going to try to be tender with my own self. If today my socks smell, or today I eat crap food for lunch instead of my dream of eating all healthy food. Every day is a different thing, and to be tender with your own self.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the last one here is learn from yesterday, live for today, and hope for tomorrow. And that's basically just everything that was on there about focusing on good things and trying your best. High hopes, low expectations.
Up and down, up and down, up and down. There's a bit of sense of humor. I wanted to ask you, just in terms of process stuff, so you attended the 2 hours,
Yep.
and then you attended the next 2 hours,
Mhm.
but you were doing this, so I was here,
Yeah.
and you were at home or in the art room, you were somewhere else.
Yeah.
And what I'm noticing that's very, standard, let's say, in this process, is I hadn't thought at all of those colors or tissue paper, those things. You found those. You were in the art room. I want this. This somehow fits. This. You were using your curiosity and your intuition in sort of incremental ways over the last week or two that you've been playing with this, and you just found the right things for the right moment to express the thing that seemed true.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't standing there saying, here's a sticky, here's a sticky, here's a sticky. You were completely in another building at another end of town
Yeah.
doing this, right?
Yeah.
And again, that is part of the sort of beauty, I think, of art therapy, is that once, almost without exception, I found that once people get started on something and once you give them a few teasers, well, here's a question, or consider this, or I think the only thing that, of what you've got there that was from the kit was the mailbox. You kind of found all those other resources and bits is on your own,
Yep.
and that's the marvel of it too,
Yep.
right? The people, each person in the group, I wish that I could have all of us, let's say 18 people by the end of all of this, and 18 people will all have something completely different, although the original question was, what's yuck or good from 2020? What's yum or a caution for 2021?
Yeah.
That's a basic question. But it's so liberatory. I find art therapy is very, it's like adding, the Energizer Bunny. You take 18 people and say, here's some batteries to put inside you, somewhere inside you, and here's a few questions or ideas, and here's some affirmations and trust. Go! And everybody will have, if they trust the process and trust me as the facilitator or us as facilitators, something wholesome will come out of it. Even if somebody comes, and we've laughed about this, there was one workshop that I did where somebody, among other things, they had a box and they said, this is a little box of shit, and they put shit in it, a little monster on the top and so on. So at first you might go, well, that's awful. She just made this box of shit and it's like shit box, right? But at the end of the sequence of workshops, she said, I don't want to take this with me because I don't need this shit anymore. You can have it. And she left it there in the art room. So again, that was something I hadn't thought of. It just came up for a person, and I encouraged her to go where she wanted to go with it. And so it wasn't beautiful, let's say, right? It was, her intention was, this is ugly. This is something ugly about where I work. And I'm making the choice that in the future, when I go to work, I'm just not going to deal with that. I'm just going to, not my problem, not my lane. I'm just going to stay away from it. Mm-hmm. And so she had a little bit more hope about going back into the workplace with this box of shit that's still in our art room. And I think you even showed it in one of the videos for the social work with victims of abuse stuff.
Yeah.
So our role as facilitators, because that's part of why we're making these videos, is to encourage people to facilitate for their own self or for their clients or for groups or organizations, that it's hard to trust that process. Because there's a temptation for the facilitator of saying, there's 10 steps, and you do this, and you do that, and then you glue this, and you glue that, right? Because you want to, I guess, take control of the process, right? But more, our task is to get out of the way get people started up, like with the Energizer battery, you know, put it in there, you can go, 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 and affirm them, and then keep affirming them as they go. So this is only going to be 4 sessions, but if someone was my client or I was facilitating, let's say it was a widow survivor group or recovering people from drugs or abuse or something like that, you might see the same people, let's say once a week for a whole year, right? And everybody kind of gets going on their own adventures and curiosities, and it's just so fetching. It's so magnetizing, and it really is, for me as a facilitator, it is enchantment. It's church. It's magic to go and see, wow, she said that. I wouldn't have thought 8 weeks ago she'd have said that, or oh, look what she brought. Whoa, hey. It's quite delicious. I really encourage people, for your own self, to learn how to play. We talked in the previous video about the significance of play. All humans, I believe, as an art therapist, I believe this deep in my heart, all humans have an urge to play, but most of us have had that sort of packed down, you know, grow up, be serious, get a plan, pull up your bootstraps, focus, right? And even some approaches in therapy, like cognitive behavior therapy or reality therapy or solution-focused therapy, they often have some ideas of, you know, do this and you'll be better, or rewards and punishments. And art therapy is something kind of different than that, right? And I really believe for the vast majority of people, if they're introduced to it in a good way and facilitated in a good way, they want to play. And one of the hopes I have is that after anyone's, even if 4 sessions, my hope is that I might meet you a year or 2 from now and you're like, oh, guess what I'm journaling about now, or guess what I'm into sewing this year, I'm knitting. Christmas just passed, and I saw people who had made all these funny hats for cats on Facebook, and you just know that some mom with her kids, they made this little outfit for their cat, dressed him like an elf, took a bunch of photos, sent it to all their relatives, and in a way you could say that was an organic art therapy episode.
Yeah.
Right? It's beautiful. So, thank you for that, Carlene. Are there any other things you want to say so far about the whole process? You've had 2 sessions now that you participated in, and you've witnessed the other people have their growth and some of their commentary. As we go into the session tomorrow, where you will be at your house and Tuba will be at her house and I'll be here.
Yeah.
What are you thinking might happen?
As far as like the process, at the beginning, I found that I didn't want to start almost. Like it was hard for me to put anything down. Like I painted this white and then I painted the inside yellow, and that was about as far as I got for quite some time. But as soon as I started putting down the little sunflowers here, it was a lot easier. So I'd say as far as process goes, just get started.
Could I ask you, and this is a deep heart kind of question, in those moments when you found it hard to start, what were some of the inhibitors maybe? If you could like ask deep in your mind, if I could have had a video of your mind, what might have been some of the thoughts in your mind?
I think fear of imperfection. So not wanting to start because anything that I can produce has the potential to be bad. But then again, you have to remind yourself that anything has the potential to be bad, but it also has the potential to be good, and you're not going to know unless you start.
I want to suggest to you, as part of why I asked you the question is, I think, again, capitalism and patriarchy in the mainstream world has taught us, what's the right answer? What does she want from me? What am I supposed to do here? What's the perfect way to do this? And of course, in art therapy, there is no perfect way. There's no right answer.
Yeah, I'm so used to tests and empirical knowledge that, yeah, when you're given so many opportunities and so many choices, it's really hard.
Yeah.
I think, like, self-judgment, like, maybe, like, you feel silly or you feel, like, childish, and honestly, like, that's not a bad thing. But I think society looks at it as bad. Like, there are people that will talk about, like, nurturing your inner child, and there's that idea that there's that playfulness in everyone, but by choosing to dampen it for so long, it means that when you go back and you do projects like this, it takes a while to actually get into it.
To get limber. You're like, yes, no, yes, no.
Exactly.
The world wants us to be that way.
Like, I wanted a whole plan. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a whole plan, and this isn't something that, I mean, you could,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not something that I wanted to plan out.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of wanted it to be something that I could add to, but part of that is just getting over those initial humps of, like, I feel stupid, I feel like a kid, I feel childish, I feel like this is going to turn out ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe like I don't know what I'm doing because I'm less experienced perhaps than the other people that are in this group, and only in the sense that they've done workshops with you before, and they've done something kind of similar, and I hadn't.
But isn't this so marvelous? I would suspect that if I could go and read the mind of the other 17 people, they may have had moments of almost verbatim. This, you know, what does she want? What's the right answer? Maybe somebody's a professional artist here. What do I know about this? Right? That those are. I might have, if I went to a workshop with somebody else. And so our challenge is kind of saying, you know, I'm going to play with this. What can go wrong, right? Like, but it is very much the mainstream world has taught us so profoundly, and I believe so damagingly. We've been injured by the idea of there's one right answer and you better know it. You color inside the lines. You do what the teacher says. And that's not how our lives should be, right? We've been kind of crippled.
Well, that, and there's usually repercussions with not doing it. Like, it's not even just that you're supposed to do this, it's you're supposed to do it, otherwise you're socially outcast or wrong.
Yeah. The courage, one of the things, and maybe we'll wrap up at this point. Thank you so much for what you've offered us here. But the courage of being your authentic self, being your real self, which is your best self, you're, you know, making the choices in a day-to-day way. No, I don't want to eat that, I want to eat this. No, I don't want to dress like that, I want to dress like this. No, I don't want to be part of that nasty circle at work. Or, you know, whatever those things are that every day you make choices around. Sometimes it does require the practicing of a courage, a different kind of courage, to be your true self, right? And that's one of the things that art therapy, I think, and other ways, not just art therapy, but it can help people to say, no, the color I want is yellow. 2021 for me, I'm shooting for yellow. I'm looking for yellow. Oh, maybe one more thing I wanted to ask you. When you go home and you bring this with you, where do you think you might place these things?
I'm not too sure about this one. We'll see how that goes. If it's gonna turn out the way that I think it is, I think that might be something that I'm gonna put maybe not in eyesight, so on top of my bookshelf or something. But these for sure I want to keep on my desk, and that's just because that's my workspace, and that's the place where aside from my bed, that's the place where I am the most, and I want that to be something that I can look for and look at and try and remind myself, because usually when I'm doing work is the time that I usually forget all of those things, because again, you're looking for a right answer, and it's easy to fall into old habits.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the one of the things that art therapy can offer us is, for many here in northern BC, and we've got a video on practice in the north, many people will very rarely have opportunities to see a therapist, or especially not an art therapist. There's not that many of us. But also, the way the world is now, that the people who most need support and help and encouragement
are the people who can't access it.
So one of the things I love about this kind of stuff, and journaling and all of these other creative ways to heal and grow and share, is you could have someone in a workshop with you or a session with you and not see them for a month or 2 months even, but you could say to them, I would like you to put this somewhere where you see it, somewhere where you play with it, experiment with it, add or subtract bits to this. If you wish, you can put it under a bit. You can, one of the workshops that I did, at the end of a certain sequence of things, we brought some pieces outside and we set them on fire with a torch, because they didn't want to take that stuff home. They wanted to leave it behind, right? These were women talking about abuse issues. So I love the idea of inviting people. It's not just this 55 minutes when we're together and I'm some kind of brilliant person who'll teach you the way and the word. And for my task is to say, here's some ideas. Go play, go experiment, go kind of rumble about with this stuff. And maybe in 6 months or 6 days or 6 years, something will shift for you. And you're in charge of that, right? Mm-hmm. That I feel is very, very liberating. That's very big, tall stuff, right? Big, tall stuff. By the way, cool hattie.
Nice snowflake.
I forgot to mention why that was even on my head, but you'll have to stay tuned for future videos. Thank you very, very much, Carlene.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing all that. Thank you, Tuba.